up your ass, you'll floss your teeth with my shoelaces, nigga. Play with me, bruh. Don't play with me, bruh. Don't play with mine, bruh. Don't play with mine. Just don't play with mine.
I remember how you and Wallow were crying. You and Wallow were crying. Oh, my son got killed. Oh, you were crying. Now you talking about snitching. You goddamn right I'm a law-abiding citizen.
I got family. I got willing to risk their lives and freedom to die by me and mine. You hear me? Why don't play with...
Charleston White built his persona around shock value and blatant disrespect. But this time, he went too far. He directly targeted T.I.'s son, King Harris, crossing a line that even his most loyal supporters struggled to justify.
About my son, what some grown man had to say about my son, man. Cause somebody please, just pull me up to speed, man. Just pull me up to speed. How some grown man had some to say about my son. Just pull me up to speed on that, man. Just pull me up to speed on that, man. What suck ass grown as wasted his whole life doing absolutely nothing. Got something to say about my son at the beginning of his...
For years, Charleston has taken jabs at King, even invoking Trayvon Martin's name in disturbing threats that sparked public outrage. When someone targets another man's child, that's a line no one should cross. T.I. finally responded, not just as a public figure, but as a father standing up for his son. And his response to Charleston couldn't have been more direct. Charleston assumed this would be another rant to draw attention, calling King irrelevant for views. But this time, he badly misjudged the outcome. Many believe Charleston's bitterness stems from watching King gain recognition and respect, something Charleston never truly achieved. Even during his most active years, at 48, with his influence steadily declining and legal problems piling up, Charleston's envy is becoming hard to ignore. His criticism of King appears rooted in resentment over the young man's growing prominence.
Nobody. Your son to nobody now.
Now, the same man who once claimed to fear no one is reportedly hesitant to even go online, realizing he may have pushed things too far. T.I. didn't hold back either. He called out Charleston for being miserable enough to target children in order to stay relevant.
Ain't no gang. I got family. I got who willing to risk their lives and freedom to die by me and mine. You hear me? Why don't play with me, man? Don't play with my...
The comparison is stark. At just 20, King already has public respect, emerging opportunities, and unwavering support from his family. In contrast, Charleston's history is filled with arrests, betrayal of his own community, and embarrassing incidents, like pepper spraying animals or being assaulted during public appearances. T.I. dismantled Charleston's so-called reputation, calling it what it truly is, a clown performance, and that criticism hits deep. King embodies everything Charleston lacks: youth, talent, support, and genuine love from those around him. Charleston has developed a pattern of targeting successful Black families just to keep his name circulating online. But behind the noise, his personal life appears to be unraveling. I'll put my foot so far up your ass, you'll floss your teeth with my shoelaces. Don't play with me, bro. Don't play with me. After months of restraint, T.I. finally issued a serious warning. If you come for his child, that's the final straw. No jokes, no leniency, no forgiveness. Charleston's reckless commentary isn't just attention-seeking. It's a reflection of deeper resentment and desperation. They sound like the cries of someone in complete decline. His brief resurgence in 2023 already feels like a distant past, overshadowed by court dates and public breakdowns. In October 2024, he was arrested in Tarrant County, Texas, on charges of animal cruelty and aggravated assault with a deadly weapon. Allegedly, he pepper sprayed a cat, an act so bizarre it shocked even his own audience. Being held without bond made it clear that authorities were no longer dismissing his behavior.
Then he going to jail again. He ain't grew up tough like his.
Then in February 2025, the pattern continued. He faced another arrest, this time for assault. Though he was released within days, the repetition was undeniable: ongoing offenses, careless actions, and no indication of change. Meanwhile, T.I. remained firm, making it clear no one will exploit his son for attention. Those close to T.I. say he's fully committed to defending his family, whatever it takes. And when you look at Charleston's long record, turning on friends, repeated run-ins with the law, and constant conflict, the hypocrisy becomes obvious.
That raised a yellow. Yeah, that nigga T.I. son say,
It's ironic that someone entangled in betrayal and legal trouble believes he has the authority to criticize King Harris. That's the definition of contradiction. Charleston's troubled background explains much of his current behavior. Born in Fort Worth, Texas in 1977, his early life was unstable. At just 14, he participated in a robbery that ended in a man's death, resulting in a 7-year sentence in juvenile detention. During that time, he even lost one of his eyes in an accident. Growing up without a father only deepened the emotional damage, shaping the anger that would later define him. But that pain didn't lead to growth. It transformed into the confrontational persona we see now. He didn't earn recognition through talent or service. Instead, he gained notoriety through provocation, mocking the deceased, including figures like DMX and George Floyd, simply to draw attention. His repeated attacks on young individuals like King Harris aren't random. They're tied to unresolved emotional wounds. Charleston has openly admitted he grew up feeling neglected and unwanted. Now, he targets successful young black men who have the respect, support, and stability that he never experienced.
Man, who did what? Who? Man, we was about to whoop when you come back down here from Celebr. Yo, I can see you had a...
Seeing King step confidently into adulthood clearly bothers Charleston. It's a life he was never able to live, and that resentment drives his constant attacks. This conflict wasn't born out of a calculated plan, it came from frustration. A man losing relevance, relying on controversy to stay visible. By the end of 2022, Charleston's momentum had started to fade, and his influence online was declining. Desperate for attention, he sought a more prominent target and made a serious misstep by going after T.I.'s family. On October 8, 2022, Charleston launched into one of his usual aggressive rants, sparking a situation that quickly spiraled beyond his control. This time, it wasn't just King Harris in his crosshairs. He also brought Boozy Badazz's son, Tootie Raw, into the mix.
This is they call the laws, and they came. He over there.
Both young men had recent legal troubles, and King's arrest in September 2022 gave Charleston the opportunity he was waiting for. But instead of offering support, or the tough love he often claims to represent, Charleston went on the offensive. He mocked King's appearance, dismissed his potential, and seemed to take joy in predicting his downfall. That wasn't guidance, it was targeted bullying. And it revealed the deeper motivation behind his behavior. Charleston seems to feed off of putting down young black men who succeed in ways he couldn't. But King Harris wasn't going to ignore it. On October 9th, just a day after Charleston's comments, King responded on Instagram Live. He didn't just insult him, he directly addressed the issue, calling Charleston out as a snitch and a coward who targets young people for internet fame. To make matters worse, King revealed Charleston's long history of cooperating with law enforcement, something Charleston had even admitted and boasted about publicly. At just 18, King showed a level of control and maturity that outshined a man nearly 3 decades older. That public embarrassment affected Charleston more than any insult could. His usual tough image fell apart in front of everyone because he couldn't handle being shown up by someone so young. Instead of stepping back, Charleston went further off track. On October 10, 2022, he escalated things by making threats and bringing up Trayvon Martin and George Zimmerman, dragging one of the most sensitive cases in recent black history into a personal dispute. That moment marked a shift into deeply problematic territory that many felt should have ended his public presence altogether.
Well, man, I ain't finna say no name. I don't play police game. If I go to jail, it's gonna be for something. It's gonna be for something. I don't play no police game, man. I don't play no police.
At that point, it was no longer just online provocation. It became a situation where an adult was aggressively targeting a rapper's child while using racial trauma for personal attacks. The reaction was swift. Fans called it unacceptable. Leveraging such a painful chapter in history to go after a teenager revealed the harmful extent of Charleston's attention-seeking behavior, and it didn't stop with reckless comments. He pushed further, openly stating that he contacted Atlanta law enforcement and even reached out to Fulton County District Attorney Fani Willis in an attempt to have King Harris arrested. For someone who often claims to be an advocate for the youth, this move completely contradicted his message. His willingness to involve the system against a teenager confirmed what many had suspected. Charleston isn't trying to help young black men, he's working to tear them down. And when T.I. heard about those threats, any remaining patience disappeared.
T.I. and Charleston White are back in the news. It seems like they're setting up a boxing match between each other. Guess T.I. didn't like what Charleston White had to say about his son, King.
On October 10th, 2022, T.I. responded with force, making it clear that Charleston had crossed a line that couldn't be walked back. This wasn't about rap rivalries or chasing fame. It was a father firmly stepping up to protect his son. At the time, T.I. was focused on stand-up comedy and various business ventures beyond music. But the moment Charleston put King's safety in question, Tip shifted instantly into protective mode. He publicly stated he would risk his freedom, his reputation, even his entire legacy. If that's what it took to defend his child, that's the key difference. T.I. has everything on the line. Charleston, on the other hand, is left with little more than loud talk and a constant need for relevance. After issuing threats, a phone call was arranged on October 10th to help cool tensions. But Charleston mishandled it. Rather than use the moment to resolve things, he boasted that the call didn't work and turned it into more drama. Then, he made things worse by issuing one of his most ridiculous challenges yet, proposing a celebrity boxing match with T.I. He even requested Steve Harvey as the referee and joked that T.I. should wear an eye patch during the fight. Think about that. After threatening a teenager, he attempted to turn the situation into a spectacle for views and entertainment. That move alone revealed everything about Charleston's priorities and mindset.
Everybody know, homie, that man say he a 7-time convicted felon in one song. 7 convicted felons.
To Charleston, it was all a game. But for T.I., it was solely about protecting his family. And when the boxing gimmick didn't gain traction, Charleston resorted to an old, tired tactic, accusing T.I. of being a federal informant due to his 2007 Crime Stoppers appearance following a weapons charge. But the contradiction was obvious. Charleston himself had openly admitted to testifying against others and claimed he had worked with law enforcement in the past. So, trying to discredit T.I. over a public service campaign was nothing more than projection. Everything he accused T.I. of doing, he had already done, and worse. The more Charleston pushed the Crime Stoppers narrative, the more it looked like desperation. By November 2022, T.I. had already responded in his own way, through music. He featured on Juicy Fruit's track Step In, which many listeners interpreted as a subtle diss aimed directly at Charleston White. The lyrics hit hard, but stayed refined. T.I. dismantled Charleston's credibility without ever lowering his standards. That was the brilliance of it, pure skill doing the work. But Charleston missed the point completely. Instead of recognizing the critique, he turned around and complimented the track. He even asked to be on the remix. That's how eager he was for recognition. Even being called out by a major artist felt like a win. It was proof that someone influential had acknowledged him. That's the pattern Charleston thrives on. Embarrassment doesn't slow him down, it energizes him. Every response, every insult, he turns into content like it's his lifeline. Without attention, Charleston has no platform. That's why he keeps circling back to King Harris, waiting for any slip-up, any controversy to use as fuel for another harsh attack. And when the criticism rolls in, he quickly shifts roles, portraying himself as the victim. Charleston's routine is easy to spot: provoke, mock, then claim he's misunderstood. It's the only approach he's consistently followed. And his fixation on King didn't fade after 2022. It just kept reappearing, always aligning with changes in King's life or moments of challenge. Each time King made headlines, Charleston showed up again, ready to capitalize by launching more insults to stay visible.
Who ain't got going on, ain't got no real talent, can't do nothing but kick up dust and wait on that fall down so they get dirty and some clout get to them. I know that's how get paid.
That's the most troubling part. He waits for signs of vulnerability. Whenever King shows a human moment, Charleston turns it into material. For someone who constantly claims to support young people, his actions suggest the opposite. He's not mentoring, he's targeting. And when you take a closer look, it's clear this extends beyond King alone. Charleston's real focus seems to be tearing down successful Black families. He's acknowledged it himself. He grew up feeling unloved, unwanted, and left out. That pain hardened into lasting resentment. No father figure, no structure, no legacy to lean on. So when he sees T.I. actively supporting and guiding his children, it strikes a nerve. That's why King remains his preferred target. King represents everything Charleston never had: youth, support, promise, and a future beyond his reach. Instead of addressing his own pain, Charleston redirects it, pulling others into the negativity he hasn't resolved. That's why he can make threats toward a teenager and then try to turn it into a boxing spectacle. It shows just how distorted his sense of boundaries has become. For him, nothing is off limits. Even a child's safety becomes content. Meanwhile, T.I. has responded with a completely different energy at every turn. While Charleston tried to turn the conflict into content for clicks, T.I. stood his ground as a father focused on protecting his legacy. Charleston sought drama for attention, but T.I. made one thing clear: his son's well-being is not up for public entertainment, and that's exactly why so many people stood behind him. Real fatherhood earns respect, especially when it's genuine, not disguised as controversy for attention. What's striking is how Charleston constantly changes his tactics just to stay relevant. One week, he's mocking King's appearance. The next, he's calling T.I. a government informant. Then suddenly, he's threatening legal action. It's a constant cycle of distractions meant to keep his name in circulation. But the more he tries, the clearer it becomes. He isn't bold, he's desperate. Even his own audience grows uncomfortable when he crosses lines that most entertainers wouldn't touch. His remarks about Trayvon Martin, for example, show just how far he's willing to go. And once you go that far, there's no coming back from it. That's why his online presence feels unstable. Each live stream feels like another outburst waiting to happen. Through it all, King Harris hasn't backed down. He's continued moving forward, building his own path despite the constant criticism. When he responded in 2022, it wasn't just about defending himself, it was a statement. He made it clear he wouldn't let online provocateurs define his identity. He stayed calm, stood his ground, and made Charleston's immaturity visible to everyone watching. Think about it. A teenager maintaining composure while an adult spirals publicly says more than words ever could. King has family, opportunity, and a promising future ahead. Charleston, in contrast, is left with controversy, arrests, and unresolved issues. It's a tough contrast. He claims to guide young people, but how can you mentor youth when you publicly target them, try to involve the justice system against them, and make threats? His record, marked by violence, animal cruelty charges, and repeated legal problems, says one thing clearly: he never moved beyond the chaos. Instead of addressing his issues, Charleston turned dysfunction into content, monetizing his downward spiral as entertainment. But now, people are seeing it for what it really is. His story no longer resembles leadership. It reflects missed opportunities and poor decisions. This feud made that reality clear. On one side, there's T.I., a father, a provider, and a man willing to risk it all to protect his son. On the other, there's Charleston White, a provocateur relying on controversy, dragging young people into his chaos just to stay relevant. The contrast couldn't be more obvious, and it's exactly why public support leaned toward T.I. You don't have to be a fan of his music to understand this. Protecting your family always outweighs the noise made by someone who's already lost what matters most. Charleston believed that going after King Harris would spark another viral moment. Instead, he exposed how unstable his platform really is. T.I.'s warning was simple and firm: target my child, and there will be consequences. That's a message any parent can relate to. When family is threatened, lines get drawn quickly. Charleston ended up learning that the hard way. And the fallout from this conflict will last far beyond any live stream, rant, or headline-grabbing stunt. At its core, Charleston's story is one of wasted chances and self-inflicted chaos. T.I.'s, by contrast, is built on fatherhood, loyalty, and standing tall for his family. And King Harris? His journey is just getting started, defined by resilience, maturity, and a growing strength that shows he's fully prepared for what lies ahead. No online critic can take that away from him. Don't forget to hit that like button, subscribe for more deep dives, and drop your thoughts in the comments.